We're going to talk about inflation, and we're going to put some caveats in place before you guys lose your minds. We're going to try to keep this as thin when it comes to politics as possible. This is for entertainment purposes only, so take anything that I say here today as entertainment and not financial advice. We're going to be doing some light math. We're going to use things like 10 and 100 and 30% and 25%. And we're not going to be we're not going to be specific at all when it comes to any of the currencies that any country or any currency had to deal with. We're just going to discuss why it's bad and why it's good. And we're going to discuss both points of view and why it is a huge missed opportunity. Okay?
It's only a game. Why you have to be mad?
So with all that being said, there is a link in the description box down below. It's a link to a Forbes article, whether or not you like Forbes magazine or not. I covered the topic of inflation very well, and it does in many ways apply to Hero Wars. Just last weekend, in fact, on my birthday, October 27th, Hero Wars, Facebook, and web raised the prices of all non-USD currencies to match the US dollar. Now, why is this a problem? Well, because of the way the world works, the US dollar is strong right now. And it's not a good thing that it's strong. You want it to be on par with most other average currencies. What basically happened was the prices of emeralds across the world for currencies that were not the US dollar. Now, the US dollar, as far as I can tell, for emerald has not changed. The purchasing power for $1 per emerald is still 1,276. That's 1276 per one US dollar. But there was a few currencies that you could cheat the system a little bit. Japanese yen, the Hungarian currency, whatever it was talking about, whatever the Hungarian currency is called, they had a huge buffer there. 20%, 30%, a large chunk of a discount. So what does that mean? So if I would have bought $100 worth of emeralds with USD, I would have gotten 20% less than if I'd have bought $100 worth of emeralds in Japanese yen or Hungarian forint. We're just going to call it HUF or HOOF. Pretty straightforward, right? In that respect, people that were using other currencies aside from the US dollar that were a weaker currency in the global economy were getting more emeralds. But unfortunately, due to inflation, the prices of emeralds have gone up in these other countries because the price of emeralds is pegged to the US dollar, much like oil. So I want to talk about today the 3 issues of why inflation is bad. The first issue is less purchasing power, right? If I spent $100 a month, and again, I'm not saying specifically that everyone spends $100 per month. I'm just using $100 as a broad, ambiguous term, all right? So if everybody spent $100 a month, you got $100 worth of emeralds. You do this for months and months and months, whatever. Like that's your budget for Hero Wars. I don't know why you would spend that much. Because of inflation, the price of emeralds has gone up. $100 now buys you $80 worth of emeralds, right? You have less purchasing power. The most obvious impact of inflation is that it hurts your purchasing power. If you can't buy as many emeralds as you did before, your quality of living within the game of Hero Wars has to diminish because you have less emeralds to spend on your activity. You have less emeralds to spend on your outland chests. So a lot of people will spend emeralds on outland chests, and now you can buy 20% fewer or 30% fewer outland chest openings. You can spend your emeralds on energy. Now you're going to be able to get 30% less energy because of this inflation that Hero Wars has put into place. So this is going to cause people's accounts to, over time, suffer the average quality of life for that account. The second big thing, and what this will ultimately lead to, is what's called the loss of goods and services. You have to prioritize your money. So if I go in and I'm thinking about spending $100 on 108,000 emeralds, let's call it $100 for 100,000 emeralds, nice even number. But now it's $100 for less emeralds, like $100 for 80,000 emeralds. Then you got to make purchasing decisions. If I have to spend more to get to 100,000 emeralds, like if I need 100,000 emeralds per month and I have to spend more to get access to those emeralds, you have to prioritize that money against other things like food, like gas, like heat. You're not going to buy emeralds instead of food. And if you do that, then that's a mistake. You should buy food instead of buying emeralds. So what does that what does that cost? So if people start having a less good quality of life in the game because they can't afford as much energy as before, they can't afford as many outland chests as before, they can't afford as many chaos particles as before. They can't afford as many big money blue ball openings as before. And you have to start considering other choices you spend that money on. You know, that extra $10, that extra $20 more that I need to get to the same amount of emeralds. If I need that for food or to repair my car or to buy, you know, my kid's school instruments so he doesn't fail his music class, if I have to do that, then I'm going to spend less. So now not only, like I said, not only are we enjoying the less quality of life, but we're spending less. And this is going to be a problem. This is going to be a problem for Hero Wars. Now, the third reason why inflation is bad doesn't really apply to Hero Wars because it has to do with savings. When inflation happens, people are less likely to save money or invest their money into the stock market or bonds or whatever, which doesn't really apply to Hero Wars because we don't have savings. All of these things are going to lead to people spending less or outright quitting Hero Wars, right? That is the simple fact of the matter. The reason why this was necessary, and this is going to be the part that everybody is going to be like, oh, Charlie, you're a corporate shill. You're in the pockets of Hero Wars and all of that. The reason why this is necessary is because they deal in an international market, right? And if they're selling a product to the United States, which makes up the largest percentage of Hero Wars players, if you look at their most recent financial documents, North America, or the United States specifically, makes up the largest percentage of people that play Hero Wars. It's just by a couple of percent, but it is still the largest. Add to that the US dollar is the world currency, it's the oil currency, and all of that other political mumbo jumbo. The USD is kind of the target for many international businesses. Tagging their products and services to the value of the dollar is the most important thing. And if I can buy a product or service for $80 in Japan that it costs somebody in the United States $100 for, then you're missing out on that $20 in margin or profit, right? So the reason why international businesses do this is to maintain fairness to their largest client base or to protect their margin. But the issue is that this is a digital product. This is a digital product and doesn't require any overhead whatsoever. A digital product. There's not somebody mining these emeralds. You don't have to pay the miners to mine emeralds because there aren't any miners. Right? You don't have to pay the trains or the trucks fuel. You don't have to pay the drivers of those trains and trucks and ships. You don't have to pay the workers at the refinery. You don't have to pay the salespeople at the jewelry store. Like there is no overhead for emeralds. There is no overhead. None whatsoever. None. The reason why inflation exists is because you have to pay your employees a higher dollar value as the cost of everything goes up. It's oversimplified, I know. That's the reason why inflation exists on some level, right? But if you don't have to pay anybody, you're just paying your employees a flat rate, which hasn't changed because I know nobody's giving bonuses or raises right now. All you're dealing with right now is protecting the margins on your profits, okay? Which is, again, this is a business. Their job as a business is to make money. They sell you a product or service. We're led to believe this has a value. These emeralds have a value. They don't have a value. They have a value because we put the value on there, much like the US dollar has no value because there's nothing backing up the US dollar. So Nexters missed an opportunity here. Hero Wars, Nexters, Kismet, whatever, missed an opportunity. They could have lowered everybody's price. In a world where Hero Wars and Nexters have had bugs after bugs after bugs after bugs after bugs, this is a huge missed opportunity. They could have lowered the price to the hoof or the yen. Would people have complained that this is just giving Americans an unfair advantage, an extra 20% buying power? I think people would have. I think some people would have. But ultimately, I think the alternative, what we actually got, has ended up being the bigger problem. So inflation is bad, but raising your prices on a digital product with no overhead is pretty bad also. It's pretty bad also.